Ain't that a kick in the head?
Have you ever wanted to make your own avatar so you could use it in Bonelab? Well, I have the solution for you, because I will teach you how to do that. No need to commission a modder to do it for you. Who cares? Pfft, they can do it exactly the way you want it. So today, I made this avatar. A very simple old man gambler for my pack, the Fallout Random Avatars. It's not the most catchy name, I am aware. Well, Fallout New Vegas, whatever, it doesn't really matter. So I threw this avatar together and I recorded the entire process for you guys so you can see every single step pretty much I took when pulling it through Unity. I did not involve the making of the mesh and rig itself because, well, that is way too advanced, and honestly, all you need for a basic avatar is your basic Ford rig, which I know I have been outspoken about before, but for the sake of this video I will recommend it because I would be a fool not to recommend a basic rig that pretty much anyone can get access to and use. And well, you need a Ford rig and you need just some basic 3D models that you weight paint onto that, and maybe there will be a tutorial on how to do that later on. But I threw this avatar together, it's looking pretty snazzy, and I am going to show you the whole process of how to do it. So without further ado, press like, subscribe, and I'll see you by the desktop. Enjoy the tutorial, and I hope you learned something.
And here we are in Unity. And here is the avatar that you have now seen in game. And it looks a little different, doesn't it? The first thing we're noticing here is that the beard is all messed up. Now, this is because sometimes in Unity things mess up. But that's fine, we're gonna fix that. So I took the liberty of reapplying the texture to the beard, as you can see, and that gave me a material. Now, originally it looked like this, opaque, and then it said front. Now what I did was swap it to both. You could probably do back if you wanted to. The only thing is that when you looked from certain angles you wouldn't see the beard. So it's kind of personal preference. Some hairs show up when back and both. It doesn't really matter. And you might notice that also it looks a little weird. So there are several ways to counter this. There are modders out there that would tell you that alpha clipping is the way to go. And I agree that it looks pretty nice. Alpha clipping does a good job. Something that, as I said in the intro, I've noticed about the modding scene in Bonelab is that some modders are fucking perfectionists, and I'm not naming any names, but you know who you are. So I don't really care how I get things done, I just make sure I get them done. So what I would do, usually, I say fuck alpha clipping, for facial hair anyway, and I just do transparent, because that, to me, looks the best. It looks as close as possible as it does in Blender, and Blender, honestly, to me, usually shows the best results. Now what I would probably want to do as well, depending on how I do look at this, it doesn't really have any real issues, so I probably won't do it for this one. Usually what I would do is reapply the materials and make them all have both render sides just because I can, but I don't think I'm going to do that with this one. It's only if you have issues with clipping. Now with this one, I have used a very basic rig. I have not made my own rig for this because this tutorial is supposed to be incredibly simple and basic. So I did what most people would do when making their first avatar, and we are using the Ford rig. A rig that I famously am not really that big of a fan of. It has its perks. I have a couple of avatars in here that use the Ford rig. The Fallout packs people are almost exclusively using the Ford rig. And it's because it has its benefits, and it comes with a free jawbone. And what that is, I will get into detail later. So, basically, what we're doing here is... what we need to do now is make Unity recognize the skeleton that this man has. So, we go and we click the little thing that we've dragged in, and this thing will pop up. And we want to swap it to humanoid. We want to press apply. It's gonna work its magic. And boom. Now, it's always good to go in and look at the configuring of your rig. So what I'm noticing here, for instance, is that they have decided to use the wrist bone instead of a hand bone. But we don't want that. So we press the hand bone, it'll mark itself, and we drag that in here. It will give us a little warning, but that's fine. We can handle that later. We're gonna do the same thing here. Press the hand bone, get it in here, and now we're gonna rotate it until it's happy. There we go. Same on this side. Take it, rotate it until it's happy. There we go. Now, what I would usually do here is, when using a Ford rig at the very least, grab the jawbone. Now, I know for a fact when testing in Blender that the jawbone on this specific head doesn't really work, and seeing as this was just supposed to be a basic sort of tutorial man, he's gonna go in the Fallout pack as a random old gambler sort of guy. Doesn't really need a jawbone. The good thing about a jawbone is if you want to use fusion, for instance, but I know plenty of avatars that don't have a jawbone that should have, and funny enough, there are some that don't really need a jawbone but still have one. It would only open the mouth, pretty much. I could show a demonstration what it would look like. See, the problem with this skull here is that I did it quickly, so instead it sort of just drags the chin, which would look hilarious in game, but that's why we're scrapping the jawbone on this one. So when we're done here, which we are, we can either apply manually. I just usually like to press back to scenes, apply. The settings to the rig are gonna save. It'll warn us. It doesn't really matter because it's not really a real warning. Now, something that's important to do always is to mark all of these up. And for those of you who don't know, if you mark something at the top and hold shift when you click, it'll mark everything. So I'm doing that here, and then I'm using control and left click to unmark the mesh. That allows me to enable this, and that's called update when off screen. That is basically essential for Bonelab. If you don't do it, actually for a couple of Unity games, if you don't do it, pieces of clothing will go invisible when it thinks you're not looking to save processing power. That's great and all, but we don't really need it. And in VR, it's just, no, it's really not that big of a deal. So you might think, oh, well, we're done now. No. We need to give this guy an avatar script, which means we have to tell the SDK and Unity that this guy is a Bonelab avatar. So search up avatar. Mine was already pre-selected. That'll give you the avatar script. And that will basically give you a basic rigid body. Now, you can edit this as much as you want. You might think that, oh no, so it's dislocated in some places. Oh, that looks terrible. It's fine. It's only where the game is gonna think that your body is. So as long as it's in the ballpark, it's fine. And luckily, you can edit it if you wish. You see that we have a bit of a space on the head here. Well, we can drag it in. So it looks a bit more neat. And that you can spend hours on adjusting and making sure it's perfect and just to your liking. I'm just gonna do the very basic, make sure the elbow is somewhat accurate to what it actually is. That seems fine. It's not that picky. I know, again, the Bonelab modding scene, there are a bunch of modders who are incredibly picky about how their rigid bodies feel and whatnot, and you know what, they can do that as much as they like. I don't really care because in the end it doesn't really make a difference, but I'm not hating on someone for, you know, grinding it out. If you want to do it, spend blood, sweat and tears on it, to make it absolutely perfect, then you do you, boo. For the sake of this tutorial, I will not be that picky. That is a pretty basic rigid body. It's nice, it looks alright. Could always just pull them out a little bit just to give the illusion that we tried. There we go. Now, usually if your rig doesn't have eyes that come on its own, you would have to make an eye offset. That is something that is also pretty basic. If you're not using your rig's eyes for this, you would get a little warning and you would have to make what's called an eye center override, and that's pretty basic to do, and I can show you how to do it. It doesn't really matter for this avatar, but I'll show you how to do it anyway. So you would go into Old Gambler as I did here, create empty. It's gonna make a game object. You want to rename that to eye, and then click your creation and drag it into here. Now, seeing as it's all the way down there, you have to sort of jiggle it around a bit, drag it up to where you want the eye to sort of be. And that's kind of up to whoever is making it. If I was making one of my own rigs, I would have it roughly here. If I wanted to mimic a Ford rig, which I don't really do often, but if I did, I would probably have it a bit back here. And you'll see now that we have the eye center override, it's trying to mimic that to the best of its abilities. So if I pull it forward, it'll go forward. If I pull it backward, it'll go backward. Now, this you can control with this, because it's part of the rig. Not something you would be able to do if you're not using your avatar's rig eye, but it's something to keep in mind at the very least. It's not really gonna matter for me too much. Good thing about using an eye center override rather than your rig's eyes is that you can move where on the body you want the eye. So for instance, I can't do that, but if I wanted to put the eye, I don't know, further up, I could, but seeing as I'm using an eye center, well, seeing as I'm using the rig's eyes, it's not going to change. It'll be stuck to where the rig has detected that the eyes are, which are a little low on this, but hey, he's test dummy, so it's fine. Once you've done all of this, you're pretty much done with the avatar. And that's pretty much what you have. Now, the exporting part, and again, this is in the Marrow SDK. How to get that, there are plenty of good guides online how to get the Marrow SDK. You can figure that out on your own, or if you want to be ambitious and get the extended Marrow SDK. For something basic, I don't really recommend it. It's way too overkill if you're just getting into it. But if you're more advanced, like I am not, then go nuts and do it. So, what we want to do if we want to get this guy into the game is we would, if we didn't have a palette, which I have here, we would have to make a new palette, but we don't need to do that because I already have one. What we will have to do though is make a new crate. So we're going to name it a new crate. We already know it's called the Gaming Dock of Fallout Random NPC, well, Random Avatars. And what we need to do now is basically grab this guy from the hierarchy. And we're just going to put him in any old folder. I usually like to put him in the same folder that where I put them. Oh, something I am forgetting is custom sounds. That is not something you have to do. That is something I like to do. Seeing as this is a pretty basic avatar, I will just give him some basic hit sounds. So whenever he gets smacked in game, it'll sound like he's getting shot with a bit of a more high quality sound effect. If you want to be ambitious and find specific sound effects for your specific characters, then go nuts. It's always fun to do that. And that's something I would usually do, but for the sake of this tutorial, I will not. Now that we've done that, we can drag Old Gambler into Old Gambler. we want to say original prefab. So here he is now, the finished version. We can drag him in here. It'll name him Old Gambler. We can change the name if we want to. I will not do that though. And then we will press create. Now, something that's important to note is that once you push create, you cannot change the name of your crate title. So make sure that you want to name him Old Gambler. But we do, so we're creating it. And there we go. Now, if we go into follow random avatars, among the other ones that was already in here, we'll see Old Gambler. And that is pretty cool. Now, to export this, you want to go into the crate itself. You want to pack for PC. And seeing as you probably, if you're playing Fusion, want people of all, well, OSs to be able to see your avatar. You also, after you've packed for PC, you want to go into build settings, swap to Android, and once that's done, you will get an option to build for Quest, like it says here. So I'm gonna pack for PC, I'm gonna do the same thing, pack for Quest, and then I'll see you in game for the final result.
Now in game, in Bonelab. And we have installed the palette through the Marrow SDK once it was exported. Now there are several ways to access the avatar. If you have enabled dev mode, which is something I highly recommend you all do, you can simply go into avatars. If you're using browsing plus, you can simply browse palettes, and there you'll see it, and we'll have them right here. If you do not have that, you can go into all, jump all the way to O, which is going to take forever, so we're not going to do that. Then you would find it there. Now, the way most of you would probably do it is go here, and you would go groups, search for your crate, whatever you named it. So I'm looking for Fallout Random Avatars, and we're going into Old Gambler, and we'll see a preview of him right there. Now we're going to confirm, and now we are Old Gambler. And it turned out pretty good, not gonna lie. No real clipping issues, no, it looks very Fallouty. Now what we are going to check, what I always liked using cinematic tools for, which gives you a third-person perspective pretty much. We're gonna dupe the avatar, do a little pose, see for him to copy, and there we have him. So it just takes a picture of, well, it saves me what I'm currently posting. It's a really good mod. I just recommend getting it. We can see the beard looks fine. It looks fine. You know, for building it as quickly as I did with the assets I had, I'm kind of impressed that it turned out this way. It turned out pretty good. Even the elbows turned out pretty good. Now, obviously, are there things I would change about it? Maybe, if I was making something more ambitious, but I'm not. This is just for fun. High five, buddy. You have yourself a basic avatar. And that was pretty easy. Now the final step is putting it on Mod.io, obviously, because you want to be able to see it. So, and well, for everyone to be able to download it and use it, obviously. So that is what I'm going to show you how to do next.
There, now that we know that our avatar works in game, all we gotta do is upload it to mod.io. So that is pretty simple to do. If you are making a new mod, all you need to do is press the add a mod button. Well, add mod button. If you are updating a mod, you would have to go into my content. For instance, I'm going into this, the Fallout NV pack, going into files, add a file, and we're going to add two files. We are going to add the Windows version that I've already zipped. This is where you get them out in build palettes. I think this is pretty simple stuff to understand, so I will not go through how to get to this folder. It's literally in the SDK. If you've gotten this far and you're dedicated enough, you can figure that out on your own. All you gotta do when it spits something out, you just compress it like you'd compress any other file, so you get a zip. We do the same thing in the Android, so we also get a zip there. So we pull the Windows version now, select that it's Windows. I need to double check that my last version was 1.0.5, so this one is going to be 1.0.6. Why it's important to mark your versions is to make sure that the mod auto updates in game. This is not really something you have to worry about if you're not using the Mod.io networker. If you are, I do believe actually that it is a bit of an issue if you're not. So yeah, just mark your versions. It's good for everyone. It makes it way easier, and it'll make sure that the mods update in game for you, so you have less issues. Once you've made sure that everything works here, you upload. So we're gonna let it upload. Once the Windows version is uploaded, we are gonna do the same thing. I copied the version number, but for Android, make sure that's fine. Go into the Android palette and throw that in here. The way you'll see that it's Android is that it's usually a little bigger in size. For some reason, Android is bigger than Windows when it comes to the MB size. No clue why, actually, but I'm sure someone intelligent could let me know. And then I can just completely ignore it and Google it myself, because, you know, I'm an adult. I can find things out on my own. And there we go. Now your mod is live, and you can enjoy people just either loving or
Ain't that a kick in the
hating
head?
your work. Huh, that's funny. Someone wanted... well, that's, if you know, you know. If you saw it, you know. But there we go. Something I do recommend too is always, if you're making more of an ambitious mod, take some pictures. Put it up. People always like to have pictures so they know what they're downloading. As the old adage says, no pics, no clicks. But thank you for watching this tutorial. I hope it was helpful. I hope it was a bit more updated than the latest tutorial on how to do this. It's not really common knowledge, I've noticed. And that's sad, because we want people to get into modding. And if you are not someone who wants to mod, but still enjoy using mods, I, not biased at all, would really like to promote my own mod page, where I drop a bunch of random avatars that I make for Bonelab. Also, sometimes in collaboration with other people. So that's fun. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoy. And I hope to see some of your mods on the page. I mean, I'm gonna look. And fun thing, if you did learn from this specific video, first and foremost, congratulations, you were able to follow instructions. But secondly, do let me know. Send me your mods that you make. I'd love to try them out. Anyways, see you later, guys.